Okay then, it's time for another transfer roundup, as a lot of teams actually in contenders are gearing up for the Gauntlet qualifiers in each region, which means we're going to see quite a few moves in different regions that we haven't covered too much in recent times. Also, it's a bumper crop of Overwatch League transfers. We've covered a lot of them in other videos, we will speed through them at the end of this one. But we are starting off in South America, where we are seeing a lot of teams preparing for their Gauntlet qualifiers, the open qualifiers for the Gauntlet tournament in South America. And there's only a few teams that are going to actually completely qualify. Some of these teams are now going to completely mess up their roster, bring in new players, try and win the Gauntlet in South America. And it's a pretty prestigious title, so people are going to be really after it. So, first of all, we see Majestos letting go of the Canadian DPS player Seeker. He will no longer be assigned. Then we move over to Petitos, who are letting go of the Chilean tank player Glitch and the Brazilian DPS player Capimac. They will both be unassigned. Then Petitos are bringing in two different players. This is the Canadian tank Dehilion, who will be coming into Petitos, and then we are seeing the Brazilian DPS Gim come in from No Ping Esports to Petitos as well. Petitos, they've been around for a little while now in Brazil, haven't they? Or in South America, I should say, and they're becoming a bit of a mainstay of that tournament. So yeah, it's pretty cool to see them preparing up or gearing up for the Gauntlet qualifiers. Then we have Upgaming. Upgaming have completely refreshed their roster going into the Gauntlet. So they've decided to get rid of a bunch of people. First of all, two Argentinian coaches. This is Aegis and Moonlight. They've also let go of the Brazilian support player iSwag, the Brazilian tank player GBR, the Chilean flex player Frack, and the two Brazilian DPS players Darken and Cabela. Cabela? I hope I got that right. They'll all be no longer assigned after leaving Upgaming. And then Upgaming are actually bringing in three different players. All of these guys are coming into Upgaming from retirement. Yes, 3 people coming out of retirement to play for Upgaming. The power of the Gauntlet. I think that's what we're all seeing demonstrated here. 3 Brazilian players then, the support Happy, the tank Stylo, and the DPS player Killer, all coming out of retirement to play for Upgaming in the qualifiers for the Gauntlet. I wish them all the best in the South American Gauntlet qualifiers, and I'm sure they will do their very best to get into that Gauntlet tournament. It's going to be very interesting to see all this Overwatch going on in Tier 2 when it all comes about. One movement to go over in China. This is the Chinese tank player Reborn. He will be leaving Flag Gaming and he will be retiring. Going the opposite way, funnily enough, to the rest of the guys. Flag Gaming have just won Contenders China, so that's a really prestigious award to have at the end of your career, or at the end of your time in Overwatch anyway. I think that's fantastic from him. It's a shame he didn't stick around for the Gauntlet, but I do wish him all the best going forward into whatever he does next. Right, now we're getting to the even more interesting regions. We're going to move over to EU now, where we're seeing a bunch of movements once again. First of all, we are at the Angry Titans, where they are letting go of British DPS player Ellie. They will be moving over to Ad Astra Spera as a DPS player, quite obviously. I wish them all the best at their new team. I'm sure they will be great. Then we have 2 moves at Vox Nihili. This is them letting go of the British support player Froky Dude and the Dutch tank player NKZ. They will both be moving to an unassigned, and they will be looking for another team. I wish them all the best in that search for that team. Then we have moves at Caspian. This is them letting go of Braven. Braven is a Iranian DPS player. I wish him all the best in his search for a new team. They are also letting go of Tropicolo, the Malaysian manager they have. He is retiring, unfortunately. I wish them all the best going forward. And then 3 players coming out, or 3 people coming out of Caspian as well. The Danish manager Oxy, the Danish tank player Wakiu, and the British tank player Jaru will all be leaving Caspian and they'll no longer be assigned. I wish them all the best going forward. And then we have a really unfortunate one. This is the Dutch DPS player Facility leaving Shootmoniker EU and retiring for the 2nd time. Facility has retired for the 2nd time. He came out of retirement, came back to EU contenders, and now he's retiring again. It's unfortunate, and I can't think of another scenario where we've seen someone retire again after coming out of retirement. Yeah, it's rough. And I think Facility is a great player. It is really, really rough. There's not much I can say about that. I wish him all the best going forward into whatever he does next. Moving over to the North American region, and we see some interesting stuff going on. Mostly Revival, actually. So, first of all, we have Not Gabby. This is a manager, this is American manager, and they're moving from team manager, or the cross role of team manager at Majestos and Noble, to being assistant manager at Odyssey. Odyssey doing very well in North America right now, and I wish them all the best at their new role in that POG team. Then we go to the American tank player Cowman 711. He is leaving Revival and will no longer be assigned. Cowman 711 has been around the contenders scene for quite a while now, so I wish him all the best in finding a new role at a new team. Then we have Coach Wheats, who is leaving Noble at the head coach role and will be joining up with American Tornado at the head coach role as well. Again, rather interesting moves. Noble seem to be losing a bit of their management, which is rather rough. But yeah, we will see how that goes. Then we have some movements at Antiku, who are letting go of the American coach Careless, the American support player Vega, and the American DPS player Biz. They will no longer be assigned, and I wish them all the best going forward. It's a bit of a rough team, that one, because Antiku was the team that was found to have a player who was cheating in Contenders/Gauntlet with third-party software. And he also was abusive in chat as well. So he was banned, and then a bunch of people left the team, including these guys, and they also parted ways with their org. So yeah, it's been a rough one, and Antiku hasn't been a long one either. Lastly, we move over to Revival, where we see the American DPS player Aspire moving from his inactive role at Revival to still an inactive role at Revival. He's still on Revival, but he will be on loan at Susano, presumably for the lead into this tournament, and it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens with that. Again, that's the end of our North American transfers, which leaves us with the Overwatch League. We are going to go through this pretty darn quickly. We have covered a lot of these in other videos, so we don't need to cover them again, but we will blast through it right now. So, first of all, Kariv moving from a non-assigned to the Guangzhou Charge. We have covered this before. I wish him all the best at the Guangzhou Charge as part of their new support line. He was previously the Toronto Defiant. Then we see the Philadelphia Fusion let go of Ivy, Fury, and Sado, all leaving, and they will no longer be assigned. I'm sure a lot of those players, if not all of them, are going to find other teams. We just wait to hear on that news. Then we see Mandu becoming part of the Guangzhou Charge from unassigned. He was previously the NYXL, and he will be the partner for Kariv at that new Guangzhou Charge support line. Then we see Fate, the main tank, moving from Florida Mayhem to the Shanghai Dragons. Again, we've covered this, we did this, and we covered this, and we've done all this. Interesting move. Shanghai Dragons needed a new main tank after losing Fearless. Then we see the big transfer of Moth, the support player, moving from San Francisco Shock to the Los Angeles Gladiators. Massive pickup for the Los Angeles Gladiators. Moth is a great leader, and he will be a fantastic addition to that Gladiators team. Then we have movements at the Boston Uprising, where we see them bring on board the Korean DPS player I'm37 after his inactive role at the Uprising Academy and his loan at WGS Phoenix, who won Korean Contenders with I'm37 playing a part in that. He will be moving up to the Boston Uprising, as they already had connections with him due to the Uprising Academy. I'm37 has previous in the league with Toronto Defiant, but also Boston will be letting go of their inactive main tank Axiom, who will no longer be assigned. Again, I wish him all the best in finding a new team. Now we move over to the London Spitfire, where we see the first incomers at the new look London Spitfire after Nuki took over at the general manager role. This is two new coaches coming into the Spitfire. So, first of all, they are promoting Commander X, the British assistant coach of British Hurricane, to the London Spitfire. Not too much of a surprise there. We are expecting a lot of Hurricane staff and players to be promoted to that team. Then we also see a new head coach at London Spitfire. This is an interesting one because this is Reprise. Reprise was a team owner at Revival. He's going to maintain that role, but he's also going to be head coach at London. It's an interesting one. But Reprise is an ex-coach at the LA Valiant, so he does have some experience. We will see how it works for London, but Reprise is a bit of a left field pick. Didn't expect this one. But moving on, and we remember the move of FD God moving from the Paris Eternal to the San Francisco Shock. It's a big move. We will not cover it again because we've covered it in a video. Then we see MY Kaylee, or Mike Haley, moving the Chinese DPS player, moving from Bitty Bitty Gaming over to the Guangzhou Charge. I wish him all the best in his new big role at the Charge. Then we see QOQ being let go by the Hangzhou Spark. He will no longer be assigned, so I wish him all the best. Then we see the Korean DPS player Pelican moving from O2 Blast to Atlanta Rain. Big pickup for the Atlanta Rain. They're very good hit scan player Pelican, and I wish him all the best with his first shot at the league. Talking of the first shots at the league, we also see Choi So-won moving from Element Mystic over to the Guangzhou Charge as well. Another DPS player coming in, another Korean DPS player, did very well for Element Mystic. I wish him all the best in his new role. Then we see XZ moving over from the Paris Eternal to the Dallas Field. It caught us a little off guard because we didn't expect XZ to go to the Dallas Field. We thought he was going to go somewhere else, but it did come through in the end. Another big move for the Dallas Field, another yoink away from the Paris Eternal. Then we see the player manager Steven leaving the NYXL. I think he was a pretty well-liked figure among the NYXL players, so yeah, that's a pretty controversial one, but it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Then we see the Chinese tank player Li Ji moving from Team CC to the Hangzhou Spark. I believe I covered this in a rumor the other day. It's now been confirmed he will be playing for the Hangzhou Spark next season, and then we finally have confirmed that Ben Best, Nico and Soon will be leaving the Paris Eternal, and they are no longer assigned to that team, and we'll be looking for other opportunities in the league or outside of it. But that is it for our transfer roundup for today. So I'm going to leave it here for this one, and thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you'd like to give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.